So the challenge of this game jam is that everyone has to use the same art kit, and that art kit is the 1-bit pack from Kenny. So the first thing I did is probably what everyone did. I just look at the art pack and I start writing down random ideas. I feel like I got some pretty good ideas down. I like a few of these, but I ended up settling on I didn't spell that right, but Shadow of the Colossus homage. It's kind of a boss rush style game. Originally, I wanted to try to stick as many bosses in there as I could. So I started with the trope of the old man in the cave that's waiting to give the adventurer the sword so that they can go and kill the great evil that's been waiting. But instead, in this game, the old man says, I'm done waiting, I'm going to do it myself. I quickly added 2 simple abilities, one where the old man can shoot fireballs, and the other one where the old man can reflect projectiles. The projectile reflecting was extremely satisfying to get working with the spinning, and I look forward to adding that to the boss fights. Creating the first boss was very easy once I had the projectiles working, and I put some dice in the corners because I really wanted to use those sprites just because I thought they looked really cool. Eventually, they would become kind of the first puzzle in the game where all the dice values would have to match in order for the boss to be vulnerable. But for the most part, the head just flies around and shoots the swords at the player, and the player has the option of doing a little bit of damage with the fireball or doing a lot of damage if they can reflect swords back into the head. The boss fight gets extremely more difficult once you have to actually align the dice, and honestly that may have been the first clue that this game was going to end up being really hard. The second boss is much easier. It's just kind of a potion grabbing mini game. If you're paying attention to the story, you'll see that the head kind of says, oh, you can only pick one potion. Any of the other potions are going to cause this unendurable pain, so it's supposed to be a little hint that maybe your character is a little more than it seems because you have to drink them all. For the third boss, simple rhythm-based game, but I think this is probably going to be the hardest for a lot of people. The first boss is extremely difficult tactically, but this is just the rhythm of this game. Rhythm games are just hard in general, I guess, and I think I may have made it a little too fast. I did try to make it a lot easier on normal difficulty, so I think it's very important that new players play on normal difficulty, because impossible difficulty, even for me, having played this game a lot, it becomes very hard to beat, and you only get 5 misses on impossible difficulty, and if the arrow passes you 5 times, you lose. So it's just very hard. I didn't do anything extraordinary with the sprites as far as changing them around. I did create this true form texture or sprite for the player character so that if you're playing on normal difficulty, another hint as to the fact that you're not who you think you are is that when you get hit, you turn into this beast that I created. I also really like how the portal turned out for passing between the different boss levels. I just took one of the shields in the sprite kit, pulled out a fourth of it on every corner, made it a little bit bigger, and then in the game, well, I colored it green. I wanted it to be very visible, just draw attention to the player pretty quickly, even though I would have liked to have left it that kind of dull white color or whatever, the cream color. But in the game, I spin the outer ring and the inner ring in different rotations. It just looks really cool. The rest of the time on the game jam, I was probably getting up to about 25 hours total, I think I had spent on the game at this point. And then I spent almost the rest of the time just doing sound design and music. So I used Beatbox, which is a free chiptune music aggregator. I don't really know how to describe it, but it's extremely useful for me in a lot of my projects. I'll put a link in the description to that as well. But I made all the music for all the bosses in Beatbox. And then I also, it was just so much fun. There's so many things happening in the game that could use some FX, and I wanted to create all those sound effects myself, even though there's absolutely nothing wrong. There's plenty of free sound effects out there for people to grab. But I wanted to make them myself, and I did. And as an example, here's one of them. I needed a lot of glass breaking sounds in the game for the player and boss death animations. I also needed sounds of metal hitting metal for when the sword is reflected. There was another like glass pop sound for when the sword is hit into a boss and it gets destroyed. One of my favorite animations in the game is when if you do decide to read the information on a bookcase, a page will pop up in front of you, and I recorded the sound of a page being opened or being turned. I think it turned out really well. It added a lot of weight to the game that I really enjoyed, and you'll be able to see some of the sound effects in these clips. So that's the game. I left off the ending just because I'll leave it as a little bit of a surprise for anyone that actually goes through and plays the whole game. It's pretty exciting because there are multiple endings, and by multiple I mean 2, but that's the first game I've made where there's actually there's a good ending and a bad ending, essentially, and I really love the game. I think it is very simple, and it's not the most creative use of the art pack, but I have a lot of fun playing it. I never stopped having fun while I was playtesting the game, and I really enjoy all the sounds. I really enjoyed making the music. I just had a lot of fun with this game jam. Not having a theme and just being able to focus on using the art was cool. I didn't have to. Art's definitely my hardest obstacle to making cool games, so I think taking the art out of that, it was just a cool jam. It was really, really cool. I'm excited to play other people's games. That's my plan next after I post this video. But if you want to play this game, you can search for it on itch.io, or you can click the link in the description. I'll link to it directly. Make sure you check out the other games in the game jam. Make sure you check out Miz's YouTube channel. He's the guy that put on this game jam. I think it was a lot of fun. I think it was a big success for me, and I'm excited for the things in the future. So thank you for watching the video, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.